Hello folks, I'm here to give you an update on what my family of CZ pistols have been doing. So wanted to show you some targets, let you know how they shoot, my impressions of them, and how I feel about them and how I'm shooting with them. Okay, starting with my SPO1 at 7 yards, I basically am shoot. This is me feeling it out for the first time. Shooting this at 7 yards, I was taking my time and just shooting around, see if I can get the sight picture like I wanted to do. The best thing for me to do whenever I purchase a firearm is to try to line up the sights as best as I can and to see where it hits, whether I have to do a 6 o'clock hole or a higher hole. But for the most part, the SPO1 is a very good pistol. This pistol is better than I can imagine and better than I can imagine me shooting. As you see, I tried from both areas, from center mass to headshots, and those were just the first initial shots, just to get myself used to it. I always take my time and don't worry about too much. Now I'm starting to really concentrate on firing. This time, this shot is basically from 12 to 15 yards. So 12 to 15 yards, and I'm concentrating on bringing it in a little tighter so I can have a tighter group. Of course, there are going to be some instances where I didn't use the proper trigger control and a proper grip. And then that's why you get these three flyers over here. So this was actually, the flyers didn't come from this group. The flyers came from this group here because I was getting a little cocky and tried to speed up a little bit. And that's how you get your flyers over in this area. And then I really started taking my time. I was really trying to aim for the X, but my grouping started to come out lower in this particular area. I thought I was shooting too high, and then I tried to even it out. And as you see, you get this little chain here. Overall, a very good group for 12 to 15 yards. And I don't have the other target, but I lost the other target, but here it is on my computer here. And this is again from 12 to 15 yards, and that's what you see here. You'll see that really good group here. This is what I was looking for. This is what I wanted to do and to concentrate so I can get good shot placement right there. I really like the SPO1 for long distance shots. If you take your time with this pistol, use your sight alignment and grip, that's what kind of shots you're going to get. And that's what. And one thing else about the SPO1 that I really like is that the SPO1, that grip, it's the first pistol I ever bought where you grab a pistol and it just fits in your hand. It just molds right into your hand. Moving along, we have the PO9 Urban. The PO9 Urban is a really good firearm here. It's of course you see this. It's already suppressor ready. It's pretty different because you have a polymer frame, and that has a hammer that you can use to fire. It's a good combination of good and well, basically a good combination of new technology incorporated with old technology. Uh, Again, here's another set of targets here. This is from 7 yards. 7 yards. I was shooting this firearm, and I really liked the way this shot. This is where I wanted to shoot. And considering that this has really high sights, a lot of people were wondering how they were going to shoot with suppressor height sights uh, on this particular firearm, but I found it to be no problem. It shoots point of aim, and I was the concern of mine was, do I either have to do a 6 o'clock hole or do I hold it higher? And it shoots point of aim, and then by the time I figured it out, originally my first shots were up here, and then I lowered it at point of aim. It was right here. I got a little cocky and decided to try to obliterate the target by shooting rapid, and I got these and these strays right here, and of course these strays right here. These two strays right here, and that's when I got a little cocky. But all in all, this gun shoots very well if you just apply the sights to the target at point of aim. And like I said, this was at 7 yards. I sent the target out a little further using the same target, going for the headshots. Taking my time, I did, well, before I started taking my time, I tried to figure out where this point of aim was going to be again. Uh, I started shooting and I was doing really good right in this area, obliterating the the bullseye right here. This was at 12 to 15 yards. Now the trigger started feeling a lot better. It was a little rough in the beginning shots, but it seems like the trigger really was doing good, especially when you get to see, I always start a shot off, since these are double action, single action. I will start it off and decock it and put it in double action mode, and then it's reset. Once you apply your reset and don't slap the trigger, you're going to get this. If you're slapping the trigger, this is what happened. And I tried to do that rapid fire by keeping that, and I started slapping the trigger, and I started getting this area here. Then I tried to correct myself, but I was still slapping the trigger. I calmed down and then started shooting again because that group started coming up here and then it moved over here. But overall, a really good shooting presentation here is real. I'm kind of proud of this, especially at 12 to 15 yards. What the other thing about this firearm here, which was interesting, uh, on this target, there's 100 rounds on here. Uh, what was interesting that I noticed is that when firing this in succession, this part here, that part there is the slide catch or magazine release, as some people call it. This right here got very, very warm. It got very hot. And on the SPO1, I didn't feel that type of heat on this. Maybe because the heat is distributed because on the SPO1 because it's an all steel frame. But this is the only steel components right here, and of course the slide in the barrel. But this piece right here, because when you put your support thumb over here, because I was trying to put my support thumb at the stipple part right here that they add so you could put your thumb on, I could feel the heat on this part right here. And when I even touched it, it was a bit warm. Not hot, but it was a bit warm. You could feel some heat from it. When I mean heat, it's not like it's overbearing that you'll burn yourself or if there's some kind of defect. No, it's just basically, it was just I just happened to notice a little heat from there. And I'm going to get you to the next target. Standby. Okay, and last but not least is the 97B. Now, I was really waiting to really get into this firearm because I love 45s to begin with. The 97B, I was shooting this at 7 yards, and at 7 yards, I was pretty much dead on. Matter of first, the first shot that went in, it went in center mass right in the X, straight from double action. And the double action trigger pull on here is really, really good. When you compare it with the SPO1, it's the SPO1's trigger pull is very smooth, but this is even smoother. When I was even firing this, and I put it into double action mode, what I did was you let the hammer down safely because it works as a safety as a cock and lock. It was just very smooth to pull. If you pull it straight back, it fires very well. If you pull it too hard and slow, you're going to feel that tension. But if you just pull a regular smooth pull, it just feels like butter. So these shots went very well right here in this portion. But I had one problem with this firearm. And it's not really the firearm's fault. It's it's basically this trigger is so shiny right here. And especially if you're in warmer temperature, my finger tend to slip. Like I like to shoot with the pad of my finger, but with this particular trigger, like I'm so used to shooting striker fire pistols and so used to shooting uh, the 1911 style pistols that I'm used to putting the pad of my finger on, and as my finger is kind of slipping now. So this is in double action mode. I'm pulling back, and then as I get to that point, my finger is slipping here. I'll try to let you see how it is, because right now I'm trying with the pad, and by the time I get to the hammer drops, my finger is already moved in. So that's why you got these little strays right here on the second shot. So I was trying to play around to figure out how to place my finger instead of using the pad and letting it slip in like this. I started using this first knuckle right here rather, and just try to replace my finger so it would be like that. And the only problem with that is it's okay, but it's an adjustment that I had to do. I had to put my first knuckle all the way in. But single action mode, you're doing it like that, it kind of slips. So if you're doing it in single action, you would have to apply the same theory, but it's dead on accurate. I was thinking about maybe getting some type of skateboard tape or something aggressive to put the stick on the front of here. I think maybe it's more of a training issue than an equipment issue, but I will have to explore that a little later on. I'm going to practice with this a couple more times without modifying it. I don't want to put a new trigger in. This trigger is awesome. I just might get something like, go to Home Depot, get a little something like a sticky skateboard tape and just stick it right where these shiny parts are, so my finger won't slip. Like I said, I like the trigger. I don't want to modify anything. I tend to not want to modify my firearms. I like everything to be stock. So I'm going to practice a few more times, get that little sticky, maybe aggressive skateboard tape with that they use, or some type of something that's aggressive that will stick here, and then maybe my finger won't slip so much. In the meantime, I'm just going to have to fire from here to make sure I can get the shoot like that. Maybe it's just an adjustment issue. But again, for all intents and purposes, that's why these shots went over this way. This was me feeling around to figure out where I was going to do the sight placement. Well, the other concern was if you see these back sights here. Now, those dots are very, very small right there. Very, very, very small to see for a 3-dot sight. And if you notice, this has the fiber optic in the front. So how I got most of my bullseye shots was I didn't even look at the back sights. I looked at the fiber optic sight. Now, in the future, I may or may not change these back sight, the rear sights. I might go with LPA. People have been telling me about the LPA sights, or probably going over to CZ Customs website to get sights. The advantage with the LPAs are you can get these where they can be adjustable and they're blacked out, or you can have the white outline configuration like you see on most Glocks, or you can have a dot configuration, but it would be at least adjustable. So that's one thing that I'm going to have to look into. The other thing is this fiber optic sight is really, really good to pick. It's good to pick up on this site. The site has a really good pickup. It's kind of small to be a red fiber optic sight. It's pretty small compared to my Springfield Army 5.25. It has a fiber optic sight, but that fiber optic sight is huge compared to this one. And I decided to start doing this at a different distance. This distance was going to be at well, this is the same distance. I got my targets mixed up, but this is the same distance. This is when I took my time, did some more firing, and as you see, this firearm is very accurate. Now, I did have a problem with this. I had 12 problems when it tried to uh, have rounds put into the chamber. And all the problems with that turned out to be ammo related. I was using Blazer brass rounds, and the problem that I saw with it is, I wish I had a one of the bullets to show you, but it was definitely a defective box. Usually, when you have a round, the projectile sticks up top, as you know. The projectiles, after I looked at them, were recessed in. So there were 12 rounds that, whenever they made those at the manufacturers, the the rounds were inside. I had roughly about, I didn't notice it until about the 10th shot. And then when I looked at the box and pulled out the rounds, some of those projectiles were recessed into the casing. So that was my malfunctions, or if you would say. So I am not going to say this firearm malfunction. I'm going to blame all that on the ammo. And I was a little pissed off because you're paying money for ammo. And I heard Blazer was supposed to be a fairly decent company, but that's what they had at my range that I went to, and it was basically defective. I talked to the range master. Usually, they have the federal, and the federal rounds I never had any problems with in the federal law enforcement practice rounds. All right, now going into uh, 12 to 15 yards. 12 to 15 yards with this pistol was outstanding. Now, I did have some federal rounds, and these are mainly from federal. This is the federal rounds. And I probably had maybe about 25 rounds on me that they were just, I just had to have some spare ones because I wanted to test some hollow points in there, and that's what I did up through. It was a mixture of hollow points of a little bit of federal, a little bit of gold dot. So they were the HSTs and the gold dots. So that's how I got this group right here between those two uh, sets of rounds, the hollow point rounds. And there were no stoppages with those rounds. Again, like I said, no stoppages, no problems. So it's not the gun. I am not going to blame CZ for this. It was not the gun. It was definitely the ammo on this. And I'm going to in the future put other type of ammo in here. I'm gonna try Winchester White Box, the regular federal rounds. I'm gonna again put some HST, some Remington. I'm gonna mix it all up because like I said, I'm a big 45 fan, and I want to see how these hollow points do well in this. Uh, Basically, I have no complaints with this firearm. Again, taking my time, obliterating the target here, and of course, this is all human error over here, just trying to be cocky and trying to shoot this thing fast. So, like I said, this is a very good firearm. All in all, it was a good day for me getting to the range. I haven't been in a while, and it was a good day for me to get back and start shooting again, and also uh, to see how my CZ line was working. The CZ pistols are great. I'm glad when people recommended the CZ to me, and I did some research. CZ pistols, whether it's the polymer or whether it's your steel frame, they give you decent accuracy, and I can highly recommend any of the CZ lines. All right, that's all I have to say. I just wanted to give you guys an update, and happy shooting. Take care.